All right, everybody, we've got another very special guest for y'all. Everybody, please welcome back to the show, Mr. Chris O'Hara. Welcome, Chris.
Everybody, thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Yep, we did something right because you came back, in the same year, right? I think it was
Yeah,
February, around February
yeah. I
time,
didn't
maybe.
need a huge break from you guys.
Yeah,
It was
that's great.
just the right amount. I was like,
Most
I can
people
see him
come
again.
back after like 2 years, they're like they don't remember us, we don't remember them. But this is nice to have somebody that we remembered talking to, and
Yeah,
uh, that we, just to check my short term,
yeah,
shorter, longer term memory. I don't know,
yeah.
but
Plus, I have way too much. I have too much stuff going on, so like I'm constantly reaching out to everyone. So 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be reaching out to you guys by the end of the year again.
all
So,
right,
so
There
then
you
you
go.
can start saying no at that point, so which is
that's yeah,
fine.
that's okay. Don't feel bad. Uh, so we're gonna talk about now. Pronounce the title for me again because I do remember messing it up the first time.
Refuge.
Refuge.
I mean,
Okay.
it's the term for finding refuge.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a play on words for the idea of refugee.
Yeah.
But
And,
yes,
I mean, we could talk about some other bent box stuff, but this is what's
I'm
out
here
right
to hang
now,
out.
right? This is
Yeah.
what you got on Kickstarter.
Well,
Yeah.
what if we turn this into a double interview and we talk about the Bent Box original comic book, Bone Graft, right
Oh,
now?
bone.
I
Yeah,
would
then we
love
could.
to.
We could,
Let's whet everyone's appetites
I don't want to
with
be.
an
I don't
original.
It's
Yeah,
actually okay. I mean, we could talk about that here. So, I mean, I don't want
let's
to
do it.
hijack this
I don't
interview,
mind.
but it is funny because I have stitches in my mouth still from my last bone graft on my.
Ooh.
So I wrote a short comic. Everybody, it's over. If you go to Global Comics and you go to Bent Box Shorts, Chris was lovely enough to post I think it was 4-page comic I did with some great collaborators, great artist, great letterer, and the name's escaping me now because I'm being put on the spot. But uh, it it was a horror. I mean, I've always been big into horror, but also I've had several bone grafts done on my back molars, which it entails like 2 hours of me sitting in a dentist chair
Yeah.
with nothing but Novocaine, and they pretty much take some pliers and they like rip out chunks of your gum, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really medieval. Like you think like you've advanced in civilization until you get to
To
that
get in a
procedure.
dentist chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like,
And
oh,
they're like,
we're,
no, this hasn't changed in 300
we're
years,
behind.
except yeah, except
That's
I
why
just
I'm
can't.
waiting. I'm
Yeah,
waiting 5 years. I'm like, the
Yeah.
technology has to hit
no,
someday.
yeah, because I've had this like 10 years ago. It was the same shit.
This is always the stuff where I'm like, can they not just knock me out for it? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll sign the disclosure, man. If I don't
Yeah.
wake up, fine. But like, just
Yeah, for real. No, I've been through it though, Mike. Like
Yeah.
that. I've had 2 bone grafts. I've had nothing but terrible experiences with dentists. So like it was just
Oh,
a
yeah.
funny,
No,
So
it was-
I'm with you on that.
it was awful. And there's like to me, there's like no, I mean, like I've been in and out of dentist chairs for like procedures my whole life. I've had a
Yeah.
lot of messed up stuff with my teeth, but I know like dentistry and being in that chair is like horrific for people. And I remember the time I first had it done when they graft some bone onto your like underneath your tooth to your jaw, and they're like, well,
Yeah.
a lot of times we use cow bone, and the one procedure I had they used cadaver bone, and then I started like, and I was like, okay, and at the time, they have you like shot up and your mouth's open. They're like, we're gonna put the bone. Are you okay with that? And you just have to be like yeah,
Aw.
yeah, like what am I gonna say? I'm
Yeah.
gonna say no. I went through all this.
as you're
Just
falling
how-
down the side too.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, I'm not going through this again.
Yeah.
And so, and then it got me thinking, like, okay, well, what if this was like an evil person cadaver that they are grafting onto my jaw? That's like
I like
in my
it.
head.
You
Yeah.
got
So then
Dahmer's cadaver bone.
that's where the story came from, and I've always loved Salem and witchcraft, and was born outside of Boston, so that's where it all started to unfold. And now I do kind of wonder, like, if I one day I will be possessed by something getting these bone grafts done.
Fingers crossed.
But yeah, that's over at Bentbox Shorts, Global
Yeah.
Comics. Go check it out. Chris did
Free
a
to
lovely,
read.
yeah, free to read. You want to talk? You could just talk about plug the Bentbox Shorts. Free comics is always good, Chris.
Yeah, so like, well, we have a ton of free comics now on Global Comics just because we love the platform so much, and it's a nice thing because we're making a decent amount of like headway on it. So we're at 700, or we're almost to 700 followers. We've been steadily raising.
Nice.
So it's nice to be like, at 700 followers, this title will be free to read. So that's kind of how we've been going about it. So we actually have a lot of free books on there. Highly recommend go checking us out. Obviously, Bentbox Comics at Global Comics. But we made a Bentbox Shorts series to kind of, because we were talking with a lot of indie creators, similar to Mike, where they had they had a story that didn't really have a home, or like, they were either shopping for an anthology or didn't get into an anthology, but they were still pretty cool stories. And so, it was almost like a marketing tool of just, hey, like, if you're interested, we'll just put them all on this singular collection, and it just turns into this almost like a kind of like a makeshift a digital anthology, to where it's just a bunch of different stories on there. We have like a Lovecraftian story that we were just talking about. We have a horror story, ton of stuff. So like a sci-fi one that's pretty cool. And we're going to be releasing one when we hit 700 followers, which should be pretty soon. But yeah, it's more for indies, just to kind of spread the word. We make sure we tag your name and your handle, everything at the last page. That way, if someone likes your book, like Bone Graft, and they go, "This is pretty sweet," what else? Then they can look you guys up.
It's interesting because Chris and I obviously talk to a lot of creators, but a lot of people's origin stories are like, yeah, I wrote this script and never got published, and then it's like 10 years later they're on a big book now, and then they can go back and do like their first script or something. So I had done some writing here and there, and Chris has done writing before I have, but when you put in a lot of work and you're like, okay, we're working on this anthology, you get the art done, you have this, like, what I think is like an amazing artist, and that it's like, okay, now what do we do with it? And it's like, well, the project got canned, and it's like, okay, you might do something with this, and I don't care about myself. I mean, I'm probably not gonna ever write 100 books in my lifetime, but like, there's artists out there that want to be known, right? And and a letterer and things like that. So I think it's awesome that you have an outlet for that, because it shows off Bentbox, but it also, like, there's so much art out there that probably never sees the light of day, just because there's no outlet or nobody publishing it, kind of thing. So.
Yeah, and then I mean, one of the cool end goals, or potential end goals, would be, you got Bone Graft as a horror. I think we might actually have one other horror book on there, and I know we have one planned. So the theory one of the cool ideas would be, if we get enough people interested in just popping their story on there for free to get some publicity, and then you end up with 10 horror stories, or maybe 10, supernatural stories, something like that, where you could just put it into an anthology, pop it on Kickstarter, make sure everyone gets a split, and next thing you know, you have an anthology because you have everything already done. So that's kind of another potential end goal. So who knows if we'll get there, but we're kind of aiming for it, which Bone Graft could be on that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And as a little bit of a side step, because you mentioned Global Comics, and I'm looking at your page right now. What is it about Global Comics that has been something you guys has attracted you to the platform?
Well, we originally were really when we were starting out, because we've only been doing this for about 2 years now, like legitimately under Bentbox, like a whole moniker and everything, or a brand. So when we originally started out, we didn't really know where we wanted to put our digital footprint, but we knew we needed a digital footprint, mainly because, I mean, just business-wise, it's basically printing money when it comes to comics. The overhead's so small. So you definitely want to have a digital footprint. You want to have the available PDFs for $3. Someone buys it, and it's just $3. And now you have all the whole book. So we were looking at Comixology, but I think when we were getting into it, Comixology was starting to die down, and all that stuff that was going on with that. And then I actually had a conversation with the owner of Global Comics when it was still small. Basically, I just hit him up. I'm more of a fake it till you make it kind of guy, and I saw his name's Chris, and I saw him on Twitter, and I just DM'd him. I can't even remember what I asked, but I just asked him, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. Like, what are your plans for this? Blah blah." And he responded like almost immediately. So he's really nice. I enjoy talking to Chris. I've had many conversations like behind the scenes with him. And then it was on the way back from a con. John and I, my ex co-partner, he just works as a published writer under Bentbox now. But we both were like, let's just go all in on Global Comics. Like, why not? I was like, it'd be something where we can like make an announcement. We can put it on Twitter. It's like Global Comics is where you want to be for indie comics. We're going to be, you know what I mean? Almost like that. So that's where that's where the idea came from. We're just, let's really hit Global Comics hard and make sure we have a presence there, which has gone very well so far. And then also I love their crowdfunding feature now. So speaking of Refuge,
You're kind of, if I could cut in right now, you're kind of hitting on my next thought because I'm noticing this at the top
but
of
you're
your
going to
page.
segue. Go ahead.
You just let him go on. He could just do the whole thing
Yeah,
himself.
no. I was just
media
thinking,
trained,
like,
guys.
it says right at the top of your page, like, currently raising on Kickstarter, and I thought that's a really cool feature. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, that was one of the reasons why I was really interested with continuing our like footprint on Global Comics was that. So one big thing for indie creators, if you're not familiar, is like a mailing list is huge. You want to get like a nice email list that way you can hit people up with, hey, new title coming out whenever. You can kind of hit your fan base. It's the easiest way to hit your fan base. Well, the cool thing about Global Comics is, especially if you're building a brand on there, is you're technically building an email list because everyone gets notified every time you make it a release. Now, it's not a like legit email list where it's a full document, something in their email, but they will get a Bentbox Comics new release, Refuge, chapter 1, read now, and everyone gets it in their email.
That's cool.
And that's it's almost 700 people get that when I release Refuge. On top of we've established I think about 600 emails by doing local cons and everything. So we're well over 1,000 people that we can digitally reach out to real easily. And so that's one of the reasons why I like Global Comics is you can attach a Kickstarter to your book. You can put your little preview there. It's 4 or 5 pages, and then if someone likes it, at the top it literally says right there, support this book. And hopefully those 700 people go do that. They have not done that yet, but I'm still holding out for it. But
we got a lot of time still. Yep.
Yeah, they got plenty of time, guys.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
But that's one of the reasons why I do like it.
No, I think that's really cool. They do that.
Yeah, and it also gives you a cool home for your little preview. I mean, it's on the Kickstarter page itself.
Yeah.
But it's also just another place to direct people to be like, hey, check the book out, and then maybe go pay for it.
Maybe. If you want to pay for it, you can.
You want the rest of the pages, go pay for it. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to find out what happens? Give me money.
And I remember we talked about this project early on. This is one that Chris and I thought was really interesting, Refuge. But just give us the lowdown. What is this book? What's the story you're telling here?
Do you guys do like a screen share of like the campaign page and everything like that? I don't know if you do that, or otherwise we could just chat about it.
No, we don't.
No,
okay. I was going to pull it up that way I could like read off it, which I can still kind of technically do. But no. So Refuge is about a boy soldier named Pavel who is deep into a civil war inside of his country. He is able to escape the battlefield. He runs through a forest up into a snow-capped mountain, finds a cave on the side of this mountain where he decides to take refuge from the battle. As he goes deeper and deeper into the cave, he's met with just darkness until eventually a very unfamiliar growl, and he comes face to face with a terrifying presence. That's your slightly long elevator pitch. But so Refuge is an all-ages action-adventure book that I had an idea for a long time ago. It's part of something that we call the Comics for a Cause initiative. That's going to be listed on the bottom of the Kickstarter page, including a link to a charity that the book is actually going to be supporting. Cool. So Comics for a Cause was kind of a way to get past, if everyone's familiar with indie comics and the scene right now, drama is pretty cool and kind of what people do, and they just drama farm for the most part, and that tends to be just kind of the footprint of indie comics. And so John and I were trying to figure out, how do we set ourselves apart? Bentbox. We don't do drama, we don't do politics, we don't do anything. It's just escapism books that are fun, and that's good stories, good art. That's all original. That's it. Mm-hmm. So we decided to come up with something called Comics for a Cause, and that has become a really cool initiative where we have 2 other books, Blossom and Wingless, that 10 cents of each purchase goes towards two different charities. One's Tiny Superheroes and one is Smile Train Foundation. And basically, they're charities that are linked directly to kind of the subject matter or just the vibe of the comic, or however we think it'll link in a good way. And Refuge was one of those where I wrote it specifically to help refugees, so specifically children.
Yep.
So I found a really cool charity called World Vision that helps displaced children all around the world, and I kind of attached the book to that, and I'm just saying, hey, this really cool book that's all ages. You can get it for your friends, your family, if they have kids specifically. Get it for them; they'll enjoy it, and then it's also going to be going to a really good cause.
It's amazing.
So,
I think that's a really cool idea, and it sounds like a great organization to donate to, too. So
Yeah, Comics for a Cause is a cool organization. I was just looking them up because there's so many like comics comics related charities. I was trying to remember if it was the one I was thinking of, and yeah, I really like what they do.
So, and that's not for every comic that Bentbox will be doing, right? This is just you are picking certain ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could, tag on a charity to every comic and be like, this one does it for this, but at the same time, we wanted to be very pinpointed about it and not like a, I don't know, like a virtue signaling type thing of like we give to charity,
right?
It was quite literally a Blossom is built around children who have been impacted by cleft lip and palate because of the author John, and so he wanted to find a charity to give to that made sense. Same with Refuge, same with Wingless. So it's very pinpointed in who we give to. We also do a lot of research into the charity, so it's not just some charity that we can just be like, we do charity work. No, it's going towards a good organization that we research the crap out of. That way we know that our money's going to a good spot. I mean, I have a book called Artificial, which is kind of I call it a love letter to human creativity because it's kind of going against AI art. The whole point of it is, bringing humanity back in art. And I've had the idea of maybe putting that towards like an inner city art program or something that could give to, and maybe give the books to them. So that's still in the works, but the book wasn't like built around that charity idea, while the others are quite literally built around a charity idea. That's why they're the Comics for a Cause. That's
awesome. Refuge is on Kickstarter right now. You just put it up there. It's got about a month still. We have some people pledging, but there's a lot of good stuff if you really want to see what the book is about. You have 5 preview pages up there, right? Mm-hmm. We get the monster reveal at the end of it. So where did that design come from for that?
So that I work with the artist is Lucas Jensen. This is his first comic he's ever done. He's based out of Brazil. He's a young kid. I think he's like 21. Mm-hmm. Maybe actually, I think he's closer to 24 now. I remember seeing something like that. But he's a young kid. He's, fresh in the game, but he's so insanely talented and he's very creative. And I've had a history of whenever I'm on shows like this or anything, I make it known that I very seriously trust the artist. So I give them vague ideas. I'm like, you know what, this would be cool, or that would be cool, or that would be cool, yada yada, and then I tell them to have fun. Like, just come up with as many designs as you want, and we'll just kind of brainstorm it together. So it's a very collaborative process whenever I'm involved with the comic book. Rarely is it a my way or the highway thing. 9 times out of 10, the artist wins because their ideas are just really good, typically. And this is one of them where it's going to be in the digital deluxe edition. If you buy the digital deluxe edition or any of the physical copies, you will also receive the digital deluxe edition, but that'll come with all the sketches and concept art and stuff. So you would see in that a decent amount of like different variations that we went through with the Beast. And eventually we landed on this specific one. It just felt, first off, it felt a little easier to draw. Because we were going pretty all over with it, and once we started, when you do concept art, you do like silhouettes, you do sides, you do everything like that, 3/4, and the more he was like, some of these are kind of wild, so this one just felt easier to kind of introduce into the world. It just made sense. It felt more natural. The color scheme was just, I wanted something fun that was breaks up the concept of a war. Like now I set Refuge intentionally vague in like a Soviet era civil war. So it's in the past kind of deal, which is you got grays and tans and that's it.
Yep.
So I really wanted this juxtaposition when the monster is revealed of this bright creature that would seem otherworldly to this child. And then also, if you notice on the preview pages, everyone watching, go check it out. You'll see Pavel has a gnarly scar, and so does the beast. So we kind of wanted a nice mirroring effect for the two characters that I think, turned out pretty good. And if you look at the cover C, this goes to the design idea. Cover C is by a gentleman named Brian Middleton, who has a very like Calvin and Hobbes style.
Yeah, which is awesome.
And that's a spoiler alert a little bit. Like, it might seem like Pavel's about to get his head ripped off, but Calvin and Hobbes is definitely the more of the vibe we're going for. So, which is why he was a shoe-in for a variant cover, because I love it. Mm-hmm. And we actually might utilize it later for like flashback sequences, just because I love his art style so much.
Yeah, it's great.
But that was also a huge inspiration. I'm a huge Calvin and Hobbes fan, so I feel like we kind of hit that with the two characters.
Yeah, for sure. That's the flavor. Yeah.
And it's from the preview pages. There's zero dialogue. As a writer, I mean, first of all, I'm pretty sure I remember you telling me that this is going to be a dialogue-free book for the most part.
Yeah.
As a writer, how is that? Is it easier? Is it harder?
It's
what
harder.
What goes into the ideas here?
Well, at least I consider it harder. So that's something where John, the gentleman I mentioned earlier, who wrote Blossom, he did his is also a silent comic, no dialogue boxes. He said it was a bit of a challenge, but it just felt natural for the book, like it just didn't need it. So when I set out to write this book, Refuge, where it was quite literally supposed to be a book that would support refugees across the world, my thought was, how do I break down that barrier to entry as low as possible? And it would be, I don't need any translations. There's not like a Russian version or a Japanese version or a Brazilian version. It's just the book. So that's why I chose to go speechless or silent. So that is it's a challenge. It's not, because I say this a lot, is that it's in some books you could get a single panel on a page, a page 3 to 7 panels, depending on how full you want it to be. And a single panel could tell 90% of that story, because there's exposition allowed, there's dialogue between characters, and then you don't have to show any of that.
Right.
Or you might want to show a little bit of it or a flashback, but otherwise you nailed the background. You're done. This you have to show everything. You have to show every single movement. You have to show every single action. Every single panel has to be intentional and moving the story forward. It can't just be an exposition panel of just chilling and chatting, even though I kind of have that plan. But that's a challenge on how to do that with these two individuals who don't speak each other's languages. There's no way to connect that way. So it's been fun. It's been a huge challenge, but I do like it. And I won't lie. You feel like a fraud at first, calling yourself a writer, and there's no words.
I mean, do you have to like describe what, like when you're laying out the pages for the artist, do you have to describe like what the conversation would have been, or like what
kind of?
Yeah.
Well, because everything needs to be action driven. Mm-hmm. So yes, there would be a conversation, but I'll give a brief spoiler. Well, it's not really a spoiler, but it's in the preview pages you notice Pavel is shot, so he's injured. Mm-hmm. So he goes into this cave finding refuge, injured. So there's a natural progression with the story to where the beast notices this. That's just, yes, you could have a, like, oh man, I got shot, whatever kind of dialogue that happens in between two characters. But in this regard, you have to show it. You have to show the pain. You have to show like a hiding away. You have to show the beast noticing. You have to show a reaching out. Everything has to be shown, all these steps. Because if otherwise you could just say it. So now it kind of elongates the page when it comes to art. So to be honest, I feel like silent comics are kind of potentially more expensive because you quite literally have to have more art that is the story, is the art. But yeah, so not necessarily like what the conversation would be, but just the situation has to be built in a way to where everything is action oriented. Every panel has to go that panel, that panel, that panel, that panel, and it has to make sense. It's like, oh, that naturally he would be doing this because of that panel. It's weird. It's a bit of a challenge.
You can't have Spider-Man on the streets and the next one in the Daily Planet, and then have the little thing that said he swung to the Daily Planet.
Yeah, exactly. Nope, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure that panel, that transition panel, is there.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
That's fun.
The three different variants you do have, we didn't talk about the cover B. The cover B is a little more adult, I would say. Not adult, but it's more, I don't know, heavier art, like a more serious art style, right? And that's by Gabriel
Gabriel Fonseca. Yep. So I worked with him closely. He was the artist for Artificial, or is the artist for Artificial, my first comic. Also from Brazil. Extremely talented. Love him to death. I wouldn't be where I am without his help. He's integral to Bentbox, I would say. He's done a handful of other books for us. But it was one of those ones where I need your fingerprint on this book just because I love, I just asked, like, hey, would you be down to do a variant? He's like, yeah. And then just to be completely honest, I mean, I love Lucas's style and I'm very happy with what it is. But I saw Gabriel's cover and I'm like, oh, that looks good. I was like, this is just, it looks so good. Maybe if there's an updated one where he's like 15, maybe that'll work. Then Gabriel can take over. But yeah. And then obviously cover A is by Lucas Jensen, the interior artist. So that was a fun one. Yeah.
And so with no dialogue, that tends to mean no letterer. But I noticed there are sound effects in here. So did you have a letterer come in afterwards, or does the artist doing the sound effects with the art in this kind of like a Fiona Staples would in Saga or something?
Yeah. So it's basically that Lucas is handling that, and that basically came along with him. There wasn't, because this is his first comic, I think there's a little bit of assumption on his part of like what it takes to make a page complete. And as he was coloring, he was putting in sound effects, and I didn't stop him. It was one of those things where I was like, that looks kind of cool. I like that like scribble. By the way, Lucas barely speaks any English. He only speaks Portuguese. So that's been fun. I talked with his girlfriend, who
the translator,
who kind of knows English.
Yep.
So it's interesting. I'm actually learning Portuguese mainly because a lot of the artists I work with, Luna on Our Monsters, which is one of our best titles on Global Comics. It's a horror book. Gabriel Fonseca, and then obviously Lucas are all from Brazil, so they all speak Portuguese. I'm actually trying to learn Portuguese. So
tough language to learn.
It's a mix of like Spanish and French, and it's interesting, but it's a lot of fun. And the cool thing, I will give you this, I had one of those like, this was awesome moment where I've been trying to learn it for a while and it's kind of hard. And we're having a meeting with Lucas and his girlfriend, and I think, what was it? It was something about the cave and the emptiness of the cave. I can't remember the words exactly, but Lucas had a question, and he goes, to his girlfriend, and I go, no, they're not going to be there. They're going to be here. And I knew what he said or what he was asking.
Cool. Yeah.
And the girlfriend was like, yeah, you that's right.
Nice. That's awesome.
So I can kind of understand it and hear it, but I can't really speak it that well yet.
That is challenging. Like you said, it's like a combination of, to me, I've heard, because one of my main coworker that I work with is from Brazil, and when his wife calls him and he switches to Portuguese, I'm like, I can't even like make out any of those words. Yeah.
Once you get it like down and you're actually seeing it, you can see, okay, bom dia. That's like, it's a little bit like Spanish, but it's also like French, and you start seeing the little, that just means good morning. So you see all the little things, but it's a challenging language, which I was like, oh, this is going to be the first language I try and learn other than English.
Good luck.
What a dumb idea that was. But it's been
I
fun.
can barely speak English, so I'm not trying Portuguese.
Same. But yeah, he took on the lettering, and it was mainly because he just put in, bang, 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 and then the growl noise, and he just did it with like a white, sketchy, like maybe a chalk type pencil on Photoshop, and I'm like, that works. It's minimalistic. It's not distracting from the art. I like it. So now he's just doing that.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and even like the simple, like you brought the bang bang when the gunfire is going off, and one of the bangs is behind the tree.
Yeah.
And that kind of simple or signifies that bullet is going behind that tree and makes that panel more 3D, even though it's a very 2D style. It's really cool how he put it all together.
Yeah. That's the like cinematic aspect of writing a silent comic is, like I mentioned, everything has to be shown instead of spoken. But the cinematic version of it, which I've alluded to before, is I try and write like a filmographer would, where it's all in camera angles, like side shot of this, behind, over the shoulder shot of this. That's how all my descriptors are for all my panels. But that's just because I'm visually viewing it almost as if it was a movie shot, what would you see in this specific panel, this specific frame, and yeah, stuff like that. The only way to show it is kind of, like you said, it's kind of cool. Put the bang behind the tree. It's like, okay, the bullet went behind the tree. That's enough information while it's just being subtle.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And going through the Kickstarter, hopefully you're all are looking at it or going to look at it when you're done listening to this. You've got a lot of cool add-ons as well. I mean, stuff we see a lot, like a sticker sheet, a poster pack, these kinds of things, all the different variant covers that we talked about. This one we're seeing more and more of, and it excites me every time because it's such a cool idea, which is the coloring book.
Yeah.
When did this idea come to you for the book, and like how was the implementation of it at the end of the day for you?
For like the coloring book?
Yeah.
So John, I'm going to keep mentioning John, but that's just because we worked so closely together in the beginning. John made a book called Wingless, and he really wanted to do a whole separate Kickstarter for the Wingless coloring book. But that's because, as you mentioned, it's kind of been around. People have been kind of like messing around with it and trying it out. So John wanted to do that, and it was a cool idea, but we never got around to it for his book. And this is one of those ones where, just to be, I do not pretend. I'm a fake it till you make it guy, but I'm also honest. I don't want to pretend like this was some genius idea I had at the beginning of the campaign. I added that coloring book 4 days before we launched because I thought it would be a cool idea. I wanted another add-on. I was like, I don't have enough add-ons. What else could I do? And then I was just looking at, we have all the inks for Refuge, on a Google Drive, and I'm just looking around. And my brain, it just popped in my brain that the way Lucas does inks is very clean and very coloring book-esque. Like, it'd be super easy to fill this in with on your own. And then, obviously it's a all ages / children's book.
Right.
And so I just had the mental idea of like, man, it'd be super cool if like parents were like going through the book with their kids, and then their kids are next to them coloring it in themselves and like doing their own little way of coloring Pavel and the monster, and now they're adding polka dots to the monster, and it's kind of cool. So, and I mean, to be honest, it's just a black and white book. I mean, if you really know the ins and outs of just like printing and comic book stuff, it's not hard to add a comic book or a coloring book. It's a cheap print, and I already have the art.
Right.
So
Makes
why
sense.
not?
Well, why not? It's a no-brainer.
Yep.
You do have some 3 stretch goals listed, right? So hopefully we can make those.
They're big stretch goals. I've never done this lofty of stretch goals before, and this is one that I've been kind of I think I might have mentioned on one other show. So forgive me if I'm trying to make it sound like you guys are special, but I'm going to say it here anyway. And correct me if I'm wrong if it has been seen before. The $5,000 one isn't going to be anything crazy. It's going to be something that really benefits the book and makes it a better quality. The $8,000 one is something that I haven't seen before. So my plan for the $8,000 one, and this is just everyone, here's a peek behind the curtain of making a comic book. It costs about $3,500 to make this book when I pay the art. That's just how much it costs per issue. If we make $8,000, there's no reason for me not to just make issue 2. It's already written. Okay. So my thought was, as long as it's built into the expectation, just say, hey, everyone, you get issue 2 as well. Wow. We're going to push the delivery date probably 3 months, because I think he said he could get it done in 3 months from the expected one, but the expected one's still, I think, like November, and we might even bump, it might be sooner. Wow. But, I mean, if you guys get us to 8,000, you're just going to get 2 books for the price of one.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
That's amazing for multiple reasons. One, just free comics are always the best comics.
Yeah.
But also, it's something that I've tried not to harp as much on it recently because it seems like it pisses creators off. But
I'll do it.
As a consumer, it frustrates me. But
yeah,
your prices are really fair.
Yeah, you get three comics plus a digital. You get all 3 variants, everybody, plus the digital for $25.
Yeah, cover A just on its own $8. $8, and I know for comics that's a little bit but for Kickstarter,
right?
Yeah,
for
that's
Kickstarter.
on the very low end.
Yeah, it's a steal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I try and think of. I mean, we're running a business. That's quite literally what I'm doing is building a brand, making sure that we have like it's associated with quality and everything is good. But I'm at cons all the time, and so I have very frequent face-to-face with consumers. So like I'm able to talk to consumers, and I'm also a consumer, so I understand it. And when I see a book that's 22 pages for $15, I'm like, why?
Right.
Why is it that much? That's crazy. I know how much it costs to print that. There's no reason.
Yeah.
If you put it, that's the thing. You have to put the value on the specific copy. One copy, what is that value? So, once again, the peek behind the curtain as a creator, 9 times out of 10, you can get a nice print, a really solid print for about $3.25 to $3.70 or $3.75 per copy. Your average take home should be 50%, like double that.
Yeah.
So $8, you can mess around between $7 and $8. Mm-hmm. There's no reason for me to make there other than money, which hey, money's awesome.
Right.
I'd much rather. The whole premise of this book is to have a very low barrier to entry. So there's no reason for it to be more than that.
Right.
And then that's, as you mentioned, along that same lines. If I make $8,000 off this campaign, it's only going to be going towards issue 2. So why not just? I don't need to do another campaign.
Right.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out a way to where it's as fair as possible to the creator or to the consumer, and I'm not like I don't need to pocket that. I need to create that. I want issue 2 out. Now, when issue 2 releases and everyone loves it, then I'll do a Kickstarter for issue 3. But now we already have issue 1 and 2.
I mean,
So,
and it adds
it's
like
basically
another.
just very consumer like focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that has ever been done before because why would honestly, Chris, why would you do that?
Yeah. What? Yeah. Right.
Because that's the whole point. You gave me the
Right.
money. You literally gave me the money for Kickstarter too.
Yeah.
And I don't have to do extra add-ons. I don't have to do
Right. You don't have to do a
shipping.
whole
I
other
don't have to do-
campaign.
I don't mean that as a
interviews.
negative.
Yeah.
I mean
yeah.
that as the businessman
Yeah.
behind the scenes. Why
Yeah.
would you ever do that? Why would you give away the next issue for free when you could? If $8,000 came from this one, well, you could probably expect fairly close, if not, probably a little bit less, just because of how Kickstarter works and everything, but around that number.
Maybe.
So that's why no one's ever done it before.
You know what, Chris? You're right. Screw it. Scrap it.
Screw
I'm
it.
gonna
No,
figure
we're
out
not doing
something else.
it. Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, we're not doing it. And
But
you
it's
blame this man.
Yeah. Yeah. This Chris.
No.
Everybody,
Bad
but
Chris.
no, that's an amazing idea. Like it really is, and I think it builds. I think honestly, if that does happen, it'll build so much for the consumer too. For when you do issue 3, to where now people will have a pro consumer thoughts towards you, and feel like, hey, well, not only did I get the thing that I backed for in number 1, but I got 2 of what I backed for in number 1. So why not? Definitely go back for number 3 because if anything, like, hey, I'm still on the up. I still got 1 for free, even if he doesn't do that for 4 or whatever. But
which I would. If I did the Kickstarter for 3 and we made $8,000, I would just do 3 and 4. There's no reason not to because at that point, it streamlines the process. I'd much rather not drag out this series. There's no reason to drag it out. That's another thing. Is as an indie creator, you get really used to issue 1 comes out today. Issue 2 comes out maybe next year. It's like, I'd rather it be
Right.
You know what I mean? Not only do you have it quick, you have 2 quick, and then issue 3 and 4. Then the series is done, and you just have a complete series in your hands.
Yeah.
Why would I not do that? And then from me as a business owner, now I just have the product. I have the product. There's no reason for me to not do it. Now I can just put it on my website and sell it.
Yep. Makes sense.
And as a reader, not even a consumer, I have a hard time remembering what Batman did last month in a month-to-month comic.
100%.
Yeah.
When I get a Kickstarter book, sometimes I look at it and I'm like,
When was this
because
one
mind
coming
you,
out?
I'm the guy that has piles of comics everywhere because I'm always behind.
Yeah.
I look at that comic, I'm like, did I read the last issue? Did I read the last 4 issues? Like, And I have to go look through piles to see if they're still there. I'd be like, I don't think I did. Crack open, see.
Yeah, there you go.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So if there's a way to break through that, like, just status quo of an indie book every year, it's just it's another thing that Bentbox is trying to do. But as I'm sure you guys know, as consumers, and then just studying it and interviewing a lot of other creators, it's not easy, to come out with monthly issues. Is not an indie thing. That's not a thing.
No. Yeah, for sure.
So, and people's attention spans are so amazing that like you
It's a
really
nice way of putting it.
Yeah, they're amazing with no sarcasm put in there at all. That you kind of have to figure out a way to keep them engaged in your product as long as
100%.
possible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you lose them. And now you're needing to build a new audience when you do another Kickstarter because the old audience either forgot or doesn't care anymore. Or...
You almost created a Kickstarter inception because you've added another layer of ownership of the project to the consumers, right? So they're like, they're funding the book, but then it's like, okay, folks, it's also in your hands to get the second issue.
It's the
right
whole
away.
reason. That's what crowdfunding started as. It
Right.
was help me make this.
Right.
And it slowly moved away from that. But it's because of people that screwed up the trust with the consumers. It's creators that didn't have their book out for 2 years or something, or like never had their book out. And so now
you can just say Rob Liefeld.
Certain people.
Yep.
So, you get these people that really kind of screw the pooch for everybody because now the status quo for a Kickstarter is typically the book has to be complete. And then that way you can expect it soon, and you don't have to depend on the art going well and the time frame and everything like that.
Right.
But that's not what crowdfunding is technically supposed to be. I need help making this book. I don't need help recouping the funds I put into it. That is what I did for Artificial and almost everything so far. But this is quite literally a help me build this book. If you do that, I give you number 2. And if you do that, number 3, number 4. I was like, because that's the whole point. Why am I,
Right. That makes sense. That makes the most sense. I mean, it's a radical idea, but it makes sense. Yeah, it's great. I also want to talk about your covers really quick because I think the most controversial thing about this project is the covers.
Interesting.
You're putting the icon in the bottom left corner, shaking things up. What's up with that? What?
Oh, I don't.
You're not a top left guy.
I'm a graphic designer, so I go with what looks good.
Okay. No, it does look
So-
good.
It looks good.
That's it.
Corner boxes. That's what looks good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Chris. I'm gonna fight you on
That's
this
fine.
one.
That's fine.
Man, right here. Corner box. It's beautiful.
Yeah, but it also
Beautiful.
does get away in the way of the title. So I do see both sides of it. I don't have an answer here. I do think it's awesome that you changed it up, but
we put the logo. We designed the cover and then we put the logo. So the cover is based completely outside of the logo.
That's cool.
So how much space would the title Refuge need on this specific page for it to make the right amount of impact? Okay, that's it. Am I going to squeeze that logo on the top left? No, it looks stupid. I'm going to put it on the bottom left where there's quite literally nothing. It's just empty space. Okay. Now, if I focus on another book where the logo is more on the bottom or middle or whatever, then that logo is going right top left.
Okay. So it's subject to change. All right. Good.
Yeah,
good
all
enough,
of our
good
books
enough.
have logos all over the place.
I don't want anybody,
it's typically left, or it's typically it's just in the corner, but it all depends on the cover art because we just want the cover art to be clean and not busy in areas that it doesn't need to be busy in.
Right.
Does
Understood.
that make sense?
Yeah, I just wanted to poke some
Yeah, I
fun
know.
at
Corner
it.
box is the best. It's fine.
Chris is just mad because when he files through his log boxes, he won't see a logo.
I do want to say.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Good idea.
I do want to say that because I remember when we were talking about this last time about your logos and how that's part of what you do with your graphic design, and the different versions of the logos for each issue and how it fits with, or not issue, cover, and how it fits with the cover.
Yep.
And then even like a little thing in the B cover that Gabriel did, whatever.
Yeah. Whatever.
Whatever.
You set the logo behind some of his art, so the tree limb is coming in front of the logo. Little things like that really add to the cover as well and show like how you find the art to be the important part of the cover, not the logo as much.
Yeah. That is definitely so the graphic design part that I'm typically involved with, and I like to be involved with when it comes to like other creators with creator-owned books that come on to Bentbox, which we've had a lot come on lately, which has been great. So we've been growing. I try and tell them, I was like, I don't want any creative input. I don't need it. You are doing your project and it looks amazing. Now, let's make sure your cover looks good though. I just want that first impression to be good. And that's what I don't think I'm an expert by any means, but I do think I kind of know what looks good or what is at least eye-catching. I know I'm way behind on the top left box. I get it. I'll learn that one day. I'm not an expert, I told you. But I do think I know what looks good. And so, yeah, like that, dude, I'm a sucker for embedded art. So like that refuge, like you said, on Gabriel's cover, just right behind the tree. The second he gave me, because I didn't have the logo ready yet for Refuge, I just was building out all the covers. The second he gave me that, I was like, oh, logo's going right behind that tree. Oh, it's going to go right there.
Yep,
it's going to look
perfect.
So good. I just saw it.
That's awesome.
And I was like, thank you, Gabriel. You gave me this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great how things work out like that.
Yeah. You gotta trust your artists, man. They know they know what they're doing.
That's the whole point of having a comic book, I think, folks. Moral of the story: trust your artist.
I think 9 times out of 10, the artist knows the visual concept better than the writer.
Yeah.
And I lean into that. That's why
And
I
that
like
10th
his...
one, Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Oh God, here we go. God. We're
We're
gonna stay away
saucy
from
today,
that one.
boys.
Yeah, we are.
I'm true. Bentbox is drama free. I don't even understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, he doesn't even know that guy.
Rob who? Feet what?
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Does he? Yeah, feet
Let's
what?
move on.
Okay. I mean, dude, Chris, I'm super pumped for this. Can't wait to go back it. And before we wrap up today, is there anything you want to say about any more you want to say about the project? Out there
Thank you for that, because there was one other thing I want to say, and it's quite literally the most annoying thing I can say.
Okay, perfect. Let's hear it.
Because
You didn't put the logo in the top right.
I screwed up the cover art, and so everything has to change. And we're scrapping the 8K stretch goal. So
oh man,
by the time this comes out, the campaign is going to be totally different.
it completely changed it.
It's totally changed. No, so with that $8 issue 1 or cover 1, I need a lot of people to buy that to make the goal.
Yep.
That is your one benefit to having a $15 issue, is you make your goal faster with less amount of backers. I'm more interested in gaining more people, more actual readers, more people actually interested in the project. But so this is just a call to action. I need a lot of people to back this to make it happen. Otherwise, I don't see us hitting goal. And that's just being completely honest. I'm a very honest person. I'm just letting you guys know I've been studying Kickstarter, and this is one of those ones where I put the goal as low, or I put the goal literally where it needed to be. No high, not too high, not too low.
Yep.
And I put the book as accessible as possible to hopefully bring in as many people as possible. But that's quite literally the only way we're going to make it. So, only you can help Refuge get backed.
Nice.
This is your biggest goal so far on Kickstarter, right?
Yeah. Well, that's because we've done... Back in the day, still kind of the concept was make your book, pay all the money, and then set your goal for $500 because it'll fund easily, and now it's funded. Did you make back any of your money to make the issue 2? No, there's no way to make issue 2. Now I have to put another $8,000 into issue 2 or whatever. This is just how indie comics are built. This is quite literally the infrastructure that we have to mess with. So yeah, like Artificial was $500, but that was because the book was done. I didn't need money to make it. I needed money to make issue 2, which then I didn't get enough because I didn't recoup. So this is quite literally you're supporting the book in a way to where this is funding the book. All of the funds that are going to be put into this campaign are going to go directly to Lucas's pocket. And then after that, 10 cents of everything goes to the World Vision Foundation. So it's just all around. It's going to be supporting everyone but me, which is fine. Perfect. I don't mind. Eventually I'll see some.
Which is all really cool. So everybody out there,
go ahead, Chris.
Watching, listening, however you're consuming this. I don't know if we're on VR yet. Maybe we are. But you can go in the show notes down below and find links to the Kickstarter. Most importantly, check out that Kickstarter campaign. but also Bentbox's website, and I'll even link to their Global Comics page so you can check out the preview for this, and if you're a Global Comics person that way, but it is also on the Kickstarter page. So, Chris, thanks so much for being here today, chatting with us. Really appreciate it, and just best of luck with this campaign, man.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me back, and I'll see you in a couple months probably or something. We'll see.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.